Commanders podcast. I'm here with my boy Corey and Steve. Let's get it on. What's up, everybody? It's your boy George Carmi. Thank you for spending your Labor Day evening with us. I'm here with two great guests. My boy Corey Sanchez from On the Warpath podcast. How you doing today, bro?
What's up, George? Thanks for having me, man. And bump Labor Day and all you people that celebrate. I had to work today,
so me and Corey were talking offline. I feel bad for Corey. He had to work today. He didn't get to enjoy that labor union, but I appreciate what you do, bro. It's all good over there.
Appreciate it, bro.
All right, throwing it up to my boy Steve, man. Me and Steve been talking on Twitter for years and years. The first time on the show. I was glad to finally meet him, dude. How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Glad to be on the show. Wouldn't rather spend another Monday evening anywhere else than with you two. So
appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that. Steve is a co-host of the Command This podcast. Definitely is some good content there. You guys should definitely follow them and check them out. So we're here, guys, for our week 1 kickoff, man. We've been waiting all year for this. A big old game on Sunday. We were talking offline. Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday, and we're going to see how this goes, man. We're going to basically talk it out and see how we feel about the game. So before we get into it, though, it's got more on a lighter note. It's Labor Day. I know you guys are chilling. Hopefully you guys had a great long weekend. Guys, what's the go-to cookout meal on Labor Day? You going to your uncle's house or you're grilling on yourself? I know Steve's a big griller. What's the go-to meal on a Sunday barbecue for Labor Day weekend? I'll start off with you, Steve. I know you're a cook. What do you got, bro?
Man, it all depends what I'm in the mood for. Like this, we went up to Deep Creek for this weekend, so rent a little cabin there. We did just standard chicken thighs, smoked chicken thighs, chicken wings, and some grilled shrimp. So we got a little mini Weber grill. So, but sometimes if I was home, sometimes that's a good time to do like a brisket or a roast, a rib roast, smoked rib roast on the grill, on the kettle, so on the rotisserie. Man, I like to get creative with it. Of course, the standards, brats, hot dogs, burgers, fantastic. But on the bigger holidays, I just like to go a little bit harder than I normally do.
Hell yeah, man. I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. If you guys ever want to talk about like grilling and Weber grills, man, Steve Lim is the guy to go to. He definitely gave me some tips over the years. Grilled shrimp is fantastic. You don't have to do much, man. Just peel them, put them on a little skewer, put some spice on top. That's so good, man. I love it, man. It's awesome. Corey, what about you, man? What's your favorite go-to grill meal? What do you like?
I don't know. You can't beat the cheese. You can't beat a good hamburger. Can't beat the grilled glizzies on the and then they gotta be all beef. They can't
just
beat
eat them like this.
Them pork. You can't. Yeah, make sure because we got some jack wagons that try to take pictures of people with them. But
that's so funny.
Hot, they got to be the all beef ones. Can't be anything else.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%.
Pork, chicken,
100%.
Fake hot dog things. But
Corey, you a better cheddar kind of guy? Better cheddar's pretty solid. You like those? Those like smoked sausage with the cheese on the inside?
No, man, I can't mess with that. I can't mess
cheddar
with
brats. Cheddar brats.
They're bomb, dude. They're so good, Corey. You gotta try it out, man. Really good.
I like the regular brats, man.
Okay.
I ain't trying.
Okay, they're good.
I don't like nothing stuck up in my hot dog paws, but that's just
it's a brat. It's a little bit different.
The brat. Yeah, sorry. Brat. Yeah.
It's all good, man. All right,
ribs too. Ribs
are good, man. I love ribs. That's awesome, man. So before we start getting into football talk, so I take it both of you guys are going to the game on Sunday, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yeah. What's the plan? What's the plans, Corey? What are you doing? What do you like? How are you gonna get there? What's the plan for the red zone lot? Where are you gonna hang out? What are you doing?
Yeah, we're going go right up there with my cousin Dwayne. Everybody knows my cousin Dwayne up in the Twitter sphere, Thugnificent, him and his bride. And then I'm going to be riding probably in the trunk somewhere with them. So, you don't want to get involved with newlyweds and everything like that.
100%.
But now we're going to ride up there. I actually talked to him yesterday, and we're getting that all squared away. I'm going to go up on Saturday and spend a little time with the family. But as we're going to be there, we're going to be there live in person. Probably going to have the battery pack with me so I can do a little bit of live streaming while we're out there. at the parking lot. I know some people, like Rio and Company, they do vlogs and everything. Hey, we got to get this live and in living color because
that's true, man. That's a good point.
So I'm looking forward to seeing all you guys. I know Phil and Steve are kind of upset at me because they think I snubbed them the last time I was at FedEx Field. They were like, "Hey, we here, man," and I was like, "Oh,
it's hard to link up.
It's so hard.
You always have good intentions, but it's so hard to link up. There's so much stuff going on. You're trying to watch the game. I feel you, man. It's all good. It's hard, man. Yeah, so it's all good. And good Steve, what's your setup? Steve, what are you doing on Sunday?
So I'll be in the truck, Tundra, of course. I got bring my little Weber Jumbo Joe and 18-inch grill. I haven't decided on the menu yet. Phil hooked it up and got the ticket, club seats for me. I got the parking pass, so I was trying to be a good host, and I don't know what I'm gonna do, man. There's always last time we did some smoked chicken wings. Not really sure, man, but I want to definitely do something good for him because he got the ticket. So whatever it is, I'm gonna go big. Probably not gonna do standard burgers and dogs. I'll probably try to do something a little bit nicer for him if I can figure out what he likes. I did some steak and cheeses on my home kettle grill, but I don't have the room space on the smaller one to do steak and cheeses.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, I don't know, but we'll be in the red zone a lot. Not sure. We're hoping we get there early, be along the fence line where everybody else is, and I'll throw 100%. Up the pavilion and get the grill going, and whoever's there, I'll put it on Twitter. I'll bring extra food, man. Hope y'all come through.
100%, guys, and I'll be there too. I know exactly what you're talking about in the red zone lot, right across the street, right next to that street area next by Extreme Skins. A lot of us all link up around there. Definitely a cool spot. Definitely hang out, guys. It'll be a lot of fun to catch up with all y'all. So, and Corey, thank you for listening. Burgers and steaks are fantastic. You can't go wrong with that, man. I definitely appreciate that.
With the steaks, though, I don't know. To me, I think tailgating, not tailgating. Yeah. This is not for tailgating specifically, not for the Labor Day food. Right. You kind of want finger foods, right? It's kind of hard to eat a steak for tailgating, but no doubt steaks at home for any holiday. Oof, it's hard to beat it.
100%, guys, 100%. So thank you for indulging me on that. So let's talk about these hot topics, man. So woke up this morning, go on Twitter, a couple things here or there. We got some good news and some, kind of some bad news as well. We'll pull this up real quick. So good news, right? So good news. I'm actually really happy with this. Ryan Kerrigan hired as the assistant defensive line coach. We'll start off with that talking point. Steve, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think Ryan Kerrigan brings to the table? Are you happy with that addition? How you feeling about all that?
Oh, man, I love it. I really do. And, you always want to see them hire their own. But I swear in this case, I really, really genuinely do love it. I didn't think Ron was going to do it just because he's not part of he only had 1 year with Ron. So I didn't think he had the connection with Ron and the staff. But to see him do this was awesome. And to see Ryan shadowing
where's Zinga or whatever his name is? Yeah,
Zaganiga.
Yeah.
Incredible haul.
It
was because he's bigger than Ryan. It was really cool because he was in it. He was talking to the D lineman at the open field practice we went to. Yeah, and I think it's amazing. It's finally he wanted to do it. We're taking care of one of our own. I think it fits. This isn't just a obligatory. Hey, you worked for us. You're the all-time greatest athletic leader. Here's a job. I think he legitimately wants to do it and earns it. So I'm ecstatic. This is awesome.
I agree. I think it's definitely long overdue. Like, definitely, I'm sure we've all been around the team and bumped into players and stuff like that. You always ask them like, hey, I want you to be a coach. I want you to why don't you become a coach? And the standard feedback I get from them is they'd be like, I was never asked. No one ever really included me. Like I've always wanted Darrell Green or Cooley to kind of pitch in or Santana Moss or something. But having Ryan Kerrigan, I definitely think he's definitely a wise person who's been around for a long time. I know last year people were saying that, his absence to the Eagles was a deficit for our team. Like, Chase Young used him as a soundboard. So I definitely miss him. Corey, how do you feel about it, man? Is a home run hit?
Yeah, I think so. I think they hit a home run with him. It seemed like he's supposed to be on that sideline, right? And how the guys gravitated to him when they even retired, when he retired during his retirement ceremony, they were so excited to have him back in there. And then they gave him an opportunity to come in there and say, hey, he's gonna try this out and see if he likes it. So. I think you got a guy in there who, he knows how to get to the quarterback too. What did this team struggle with last year? Getting to the quarterback. So hopefully he can get these guys, coach these guys up, and him and Scania, they'll make a good defensive line out of these boys. I think we're seeing some of their marks now with these cats. We saw for Darian Mathis, who I think had a great preseason. Also now. That could be a lot to that coaching. It could be the fact that he was born. He's Alabama Crimson Tide. We don't know, but I'll coach it. I'll say it's up to coaching and everything. But yeah, I think it's a home run move.
I think it's for sure. I definitely agree. And I don't know if you guys caught it today. I'm sure you guys did, but they're just showing some of the new drills, the defensive line team, what they were doing this morning, kind of like a blocking in a ball spot with a soccer ball coming through. So it's kind of cool to think outside the box. And I do like that veteran presence that Ryan Kerrigan brings. Let's kind of pivot to more of like something that's more eye-opening, right? So Steve, I don't know if you caught this, but basically on Wednesday, Cam Curl walked out. He's wearing a sling watching practice, and that was a little bit concerning. And then most recently, we heard that he's wearing a little cast around his his thumb. I believe he had like a little thumb procedure to kind of get things correct. What's your level of concern for that? How do you feel about that, Steve?
I'm very concerned. Cam Curl is one of the slight. What's up, Andy? Draft owner Corey. Hey, Cam Curl was one of the lone bright spots we had on that backside of the defense, and for him to be out thumb surgery, and they're saying he might even play. It's still kind of worrisome because what Bobby had a pretty good preseason, but nobody else did back there. Percy did not have a good preseason. He really didn't give us nothing to look forward to. So if Cam's not playing and Cam was supposed to be that box guy to replace Landon, I don't know what we're going to do. The linebackers they're already going to have to make up for the linebackers. Now you have Cam Curl down. Who's going to make it for Cam Curl? These things are just trickling more and more. It is. The lack of depth on the defense. So it's going to be tough. Not happy with it.
Corey, what's your take?
Bobby McCain was looking good.
I mean, I didn't say it's good. He wasn't
Steve,
bad.
I'm with you though. He's a solid player. He's like a B.
Yeah.
He's a B.
Yeah, he was. You know what I mean?
Y'all stop it.
He's no DeJon Gomes, we'll put that way.
I know that, but comparing an F to a D still, you still gonna have some remediation. But no, I think it's concerning too. I hate to keep on beating a dead horse with you guys and agreeing, but if he is your best member of that middle backfield of the defense and the thumb, he can play probably with a bad thumb. But how is that going to affect him in coverage, tackling, right? If what's the difference in him getting an interception if he's up there to get an interception or something like that? It's a huge concern because the secondary is razor thin, especially in the safety realm. It's thin. It's good to see that Jeremy Reeves made the team and all that good stuff. But other than that, a lot of these guys left a lot to be desired. Out there on that field during the preseason. So my concern level is probably at like a 9.5 right now.
Wow, 9.5. That's pretty damn high, actually. Okay, cool. That's interesting. So I think he'll probably play. He might do the whole like club thing or whatever it is that we've seen in the past, and Ricardo going out with one hand. That will create some like the NFL, man. It's a blood hungry league, right? They're going to see that, they're going to attack that, right? So they're going to run at him, throw at him, and things like that. Hopefully he can withstand it, and hopefully he'll be better than where we're at, because I think he is our most valuable player on the back end of our defense. We definitely need him to shine. So we'll see how that goes.
Because I mean, is Derek Force going to be the guy to step up if Cam Curl can't play?
That's the rumor, dude. That's a rumor, Steve. So if Curl doesn't play, Derek Force is coming in. So
we'll see. That's
and then
their guy.
Then he's going to be communicating with Percy Butler, who's a rookie, and there's still going to be a lack. It's going to be a lack of communication back there. So we'll see. So speaking of which, right, there was a Twitter meltdown last week. I thought it was a little bit overblown, but I don't want to, we'll see how you guys feel about this. So last week, post cut, a familiar face came back to the Washington Commanders by the name of John Bostic. It created a Twitter meltdown. Okay, Steve, in your opinion, is that justified? Like, what are your thoughts there? Like, do you feel like John Bostic is? Go ahead. What are your thoughts of the whole John Bostic coming back?
I don't like it. Like they didn't clearly want him last season.
Okay.
At the end of last season, right? So if they did, he'd still be on the team that offered a contract. I don't think anyone swooped him away from us. But I understand they did what they had to do because they needed some depth in the linebacker position. So John Bostic knows the system. Jack Del Rio's system said the same. He knows how things work. But I just don't know. They're trying to mold Cole Holcomb into the Mike. John Bostic had more. He had almost all the snaps at Mike last year. He beat Cole Holcomb out at the Mike last time.
He did.
So what are you really doing here? Are you trying to put him back at the Mike? Do you not trust Cole? Is Cole going to be the guy? I mean, I don't like it. I really don't. It just goes to show that they should have addressed his position way earlier before the draft. I'm talking get rid of Deron Payne, trade him for someone else, get a draft pick, draft a linebacker. I think we're the only team who didn't draft a linebacker this year. I think we are the only
that's
team.
Interesting. I got to look at that.
I heard it on the radio, and I have no idea if there's any truth to it. So he's here. He has flashes of athleticism, but that's where I'll stop.
I got you. My boy Raul brought up a good point. He said John Bostic would have been fine if they didn't also keep Mayo, which is pretty interesting. I had a Panthers podcaster come on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. He actually was pretty high on Mayo. He said Mayo's not necessarily like a high-end starter or anything like that, but he said he was wise. He said he actually, like with Luke Kuechly, was in the locker room kind of learning from him. So he's smart, but he thinks he's more of like a role player. So maybe having two role players does kind of take up the room. I do agree with you, Steve. I think we should have maybe been more aggressive with it. Like we knew this was going to be an issue for a long time, but Corey, what do you think, man? Do you think this is a code? Like, was the John Bostic hate kind of justified? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Like what? Like, and I was a John Bostic fan too. Like I used to be a John Bostic fan. Like 2020, I think he had some key plays to help win games, and then he turned into a turnstile. I never forget. It was burned in my head. Him just like, Keenan Allen. What you gonna do? You want to catch that ball? You go ahead and catch that on third.
Or name your tight end. Name your tight end.
Yeah. Anytime. Yeah.
That's been an epidemic for Washington for years. Like just Jason Witten or Brent Selleck or whatever from the Eagles a long time ago. They always eat us up. But go ahead. Yeah,
you're trying to improve. Yeah, you're trying to improve at a position that you have a clear need at. That's like, and I've said this multiple times. That's like I've got a paper cut. Or I've got like a small abrasion on my hand and I need a Band-Aid, and I went in the trash can and got the same old bloody Band-Aid from last year. They got the little brown spot on it and everything. That's what he is. He's the brown spot on the Band-Aid.
Okay.
It's just like you can
visual.
You can't there's no justification for this. And then the fact that they sat there, the media sat there and really laughed about it. Ron winked at it.
I can't believe Ron winked at it. I thought that was a little bit like confident for some reason.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Bro, like that. I'm like, what are we doing? And then the guy is coming off a pec issue.
Yeah.
But last time I checked, linebackers have to have a lot of upper body strength, right?
Remember Rakpo?
For sure, dude. Yeah. Remember Rakpo for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah.
So what, like, to me, this just doesn't make any sense. You can say it's familiarity or anything like that, or anything like that. Yeah. But to me, I have a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
And I really, and this is just how I feel about it.
Andy, go ahead.
They are setting Jack Del Rio up.
They want him gone?
You think so?
They want him gone?
Setting him up.
Okay.
And it could be rightfully so that they're setting him up. I'll never tell you which one, but they're setting him up.
Okay.
You go out and you get grandma's old used trash to come up in here and put together patchwork. You don't make any improvements on in the linebacker spot. They're already talking about how bad this defense is, especially on third downs. It's god awful. To me, I think you have perfect justification in 3 weeks. If this defense is at the bottom of the league, or we're getting ready to go in to play Tennessee, that Jack might get relieved of his duties.
I'll be surprised by that. Steve, do you think that'll happen? Like mid-season?
He might Twitter himself out by himself with no help.
He might Twitter himself. He got off of Twitter, but yeah,
Corey, I could see that actually work. I don't know if it'd be deliberate, but if that happens, regardless of all the other stuff, that's definitely a possibility because we already fired Sam Mills, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, now if maybe Del Rio says, well, he was the problem. Okay, now if you don't perform, who's the problem now? Who's going to be left? And I don't know. Maybe one day we'll see Ryan Kerrigan as defensive coordinator, but they could. There's still people available. They could have brought in besides John Bostic. Now the money would have been kind of an issue, and George and I were talking about this on Twitter. Blake Martinez, inside linebacker. He's 28. He's coming off an ACL. I get it, but I think we could have got him on the cheap, probably for somewhere close to what John Bostic is gonna make or is making. I'm a big Dante Hightower fan. I know he's older. He's 32. George is right. Yes, he has problems in coverage, but there's some other people we could have went after. And then the big joke on Twitter was, let's just bring back KPL and make it a big family reunion with Kevin Pierre-Louis. Let's just bring them all back.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So me personally, Corey, I feel you on that. I just think that Ron is like too loyal. I can't imagine him firing Jack Del Rio mid-season. If it was going to happen, maybe like before the season. The only way I can see, look at Corey smiling. The The only way I can see this happening, right, is basically, let's say the team falls out and it's like we're like 0-5, 2-5, or something like that. They might get rid of him and put Chris Harris and elevate him to defensive coordinator because I can see him like being desirable in the future.
People are really high on Chris Harris. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I'm not high on him though.
You're not. Well, we can talk about that in a second. We'll talk about that in a second. But Chris Harris, I know he got talked to by the Eagles as potentially joining their staff. When I saw the practices this summer, he was everywhere. I got to give him credit. He's very effusive. He's very enthusiastic. He was calling people out. He had high standards. So I do like that about him. Like I wasn't high on him before that. Maybe just, the optics look good, but at the same time, like as Corey can mention, the secondary hasn't done anything to prove it they're elite. Is that what you think, Corey, on that?
That's why I'm like, I said, you can go out there and bark all in front of the yard all you want to. The results have to be shown to me on game day. And that's showing that is one of the most lackluster areas of the defense and probably the team, right? Now, you do have some good our corners, our starting corners, the top two guys are pretty good corners. Like, I'm not going to take anything away from Kendall and William Jackson, the third PI, because, it's just that sometimes I think they're played out of position. I think they're played out of scheme. Honestly, we know Williams should be playing man-to-man. Kendall should be kicked inside, put juice on the outside, but, we don't get paid to make these decisions. But, and what you said kind of about the loyalty that Ron is loyal to a fault, Sam Mills III predates Ron Rivera in Carolina. It brought him around. And I said, I think he's been listening to a little bit of Chris Brown saying these hoes ain't loyal, man, because that's what's going on right now. Because I think it doesn't matter. And Ron has done some interesting things that I didn't realize that he was going to, and I want him to keep the same energy with the defense on offense. Like when he put Antonio Gibson on the pine and put Brian Robinson up there, right? This is something we've never seen Ron do in Washington. Nope. And I want him to keep that same energy.
So Corey and Steve, I don't want to clear your thought right now. What do you think? What do you think the motivation is behind it? Do you think there's more pressure on him this year? Do you think he feels like he has to do this, or what do you think? You think so, Corey?
I think he has the pressure on him. He's always been talking about Carolina, third year. This is when it's going to take off. Third year. This is what we're going to do. Third year. In Carolina, this is what we did. Okay, I don't want to hear about Carolina. I saw what you did in Carolina. I need to see what you're doing in Washington. And right now, you have maintained either you need to show me that you can rise above, or are you going to fall flat? And, maybe this experiment might need to go into the hands of somebody else if you can't get it right. Now, I don't think he's going to lose his job if this team finishes 7-10 again this year. I really don't. No. But if it's like 5-12, 4-13 and stuff, then I think he's going to lose his job. But I think I think he sees the writing on the wall, and he's trying to get people back on his side. I think he hears it in the media. I know he hears it in the fan base. Yeah, they're probably hearing it up there at Ashburn Park at the command center too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's do or die for him.
Steve, I'm gonna let you jump on this question. I'm gonna ask you a very similar question. I put it on Facebook Twitter the other day. I think it's pretty interesting, right? Do you think like they're really trying to market that this is a new era with the Commanders and like new jerseys and new culture and things like that? Do you think Ron Rivera's success is tied into this rebrand as well? Like if Ron Rivera fails and like the team goes like 4-13, or like was that the same old Redskins? Are we kind of going? Is that ruin the shine of a new era in your opinion?
No, it shouldn't. Okay. It should. Okay. It's not. They're completely mutually exclusive. Like they're not related. No coach should have to deal with what Ron dealt with.
100%.
He should only be dealing about what football. So 100%. All that and off the field nonsense shouldn't matter. If the rebrand fails, it doesn't matter. Ron's job is football. 7-9. I forget. Don't quote me on the records. We're about 500, give or take, for the first 2 years. Culture change is over. It's time to win. You ain't working on the culture for 3 years. 3 years, it's performance time.
Yeah.
But you're right. Completely not related. The off the brand stuff, he has to deal with it, which is why he should be the highest paid coach in the NFL. If you ask me, for all the nonsense, no coach should have to deal with.
There's a lot of trauma coming at him all the time. Jesus Christ.
No coach has to deal with what he dealt with. Yeah. And on top of that, cancer. You know what I'm saying? Like just one level of adversity after the other. The man is resilient. So
he's a strong man, dude, for sure.
Yes, I don't want to go too hard on Ron. I love the dude. You know what I mean? So that's just how I feel.
I'm with you. So sorry to cut you off originally.
Yeah.
Do you think there is pressure on him this year? Do you think that's why we're starting to see some things a little bit different than in years past?
Yeah, I think there is pressure, but not as much as we know of pressure as Redskins fans, Commanders, Washington football team fans in the past. Usually, Jay Gruden is probably the longest tenured coach we had in for how long?
6 years.
I just think we're in a different place. I think it would be a bad move, even if he goes like 1-16, he would not be fired. I don't think, because of what's going on with the team. And I hate to say it's mutually exclusive, but it kind of is not with regards to treating Ron how he's supposed to be. But if the team underperforms, we have our two co-GMs, the assistant to the regional managers behind the scenes. So you got to figure it out. I don't know what they're doing, but ultimately it falls back on Ron. It's a coach-centric opportunity organization. So
I agree.
But I don't think he's on the hot seat this year, even regardless of what his record
I agree.
goes.
Andy is sick of the culture conversations of the years 2027.
Yeah,
just
no
win,
more
baby. He's got that whole Al Davis perspective. I like it.
Yeah.
First string podcast. Our roster is better than it was 3 years ago. It's winning time. So I feel you on that. Let me ask you a question. Kind of going ad lib now. So the narrative is that Washington is going to win 10 games this year or win 9 games this year. And the big narrative is that, last year we won 7 games with Heineke and the schedule is a lot weaker now. Are we kind of like banking too much on that, or do you think the team's improved greatly? I know it's kind of a hard question to ask you, but like, Corey, I'm going to ask you, like, are your expectations still high going into the season, or has the preseason kind of like shaken your confidence a little bit? Ponder that. Take your time.
I want to answer that. I want to answer this intelligibly. So,
okay, go ahead. Articulate your thoughts.
So the pontification of what's going to be regurgitationized out of my speech here is the fact that I don't think it's unreasonable to expect this team not to win 9 to 10 games this year. I think the schedule is there. You've got a better quality quarterback. And anybody who's saying that, and these fools that are out here saying, "Oh, Taylor Heineke could do the same thing as Carson Wentz," cannot. You should not be around small children, old people, or animals, because you are a crazy person. That's what. I still think 9 and 8, 10 and 7. I think that is reasonable for this team. Now the defense has significantly declined. But the offense has significantly improved. I remember talking in like June and July. People were like, I'm afraid Trevor Lawrence is going to throw for 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. Okay, we got to score 4 touchdowns then. Because it's defenses. I need the offense's energy to overcompensate for laps in defenses, which the defense has been doing for the offense in previous years, because we haven't had a quarterback that could even wipe his own butt, let alone throw a touchdown.
2020, exactly.
Exactly.
Whenever Washington ever makes the playoffs in this recent era, it's always been the defense carrying the offense 100%. But keep going. Sorry to cut you off, Corey.
Oh, no. That's pretty much where I kind of how I feel is like the expectation should be high. I think rightfully so. Ron has geared us for this, right, too. And I'm like y'all, right? I got Ron's back. I'll be critical of Ron, but at the end of the day, I like Ron, and I think he's a good man. I think he has to deal with a lot of BS that we don't see on the surface and stuff that we hear about. But I think at the end of the day, the guy wants to win games. He wants to coach a football team, and I think he's a leader of men.
I agree. I think it's a culture setter, professional coach. He's going to get everyone. I like the whole youth movement where we kind of drafted young, or we drafted. Our team is relatively young. I think that our oldest player on the team is Carson Wentz and Charles Leno, if I believe correctly. Maybe not Tressway. Well, Tressway is specials or whatever. Yeah, but most of the other players are young, so I kind of like that perspective. But So Steve, what do you think, man? Has your perspective changed over the course of this last month or so?
Yep, I'm exactly where Corey is, and I don't want to play that card, but the offense is going to have to overcome the defensive flaws. And in 2020, I did not think we were going to be saying that when Chase Young was winning Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
we had the number 4 ranked defense for points, and then number 2 ranked defense for yardage, and then all of a sudden, flip flop, and we regressed last year. And I really think, we were 7-9 and 7-10, and I think, honestly, dealing with, Alex Smith, Taylor Heineke, I honestly think that Carson Wentz and Jahan Dotson alone can at least give you 2 more games. So there's no reason this team should not win 9. And I want to say with strength of schedule, I know you take these things with a grain of salt, but strength of schedule, we're up there. I don't know exactly where it is. I think we're top 7, top 6. We're pretty high up there.
Oh, we're up there, top 5 even. We're really high up there. Yeah, so
there's no reason we shouldn't get 9 wins. Does 9 wins get into the playoffs in the NFC East? Maybe not. I don't know. So there's no reason we should not get 9 wins this year, just based on what we've done. Not for the defensive sake, but for the offensive sake.
I gotcha. I want what Corey's drinking. Corey says people may not agree with me, but I see 12-5 out of the schedule. A lot of things would go in our favor. Also, off to a fast start. I love that, man. That'd be great. But with 12 wins, when's the last time we did that? That was like our Super Bowl year, 14-2, if I remember correctly. But it's been a long time. So,
well, going back to what Corey said a second ago, with the defensive struggles, and he talked about. You got to put this guy in this position. Why is this guy playing in that position? This guy should be here. The coach's job is to put players in position to be successful. That's their whole job. And of course, scheming plays, but you put X player in X position to be successful. And if you're not doing that, what are you doing? 3rd and 1. I know it's preseason, but we do it every year. I hate to say it. It was all over Twitter meltdown again. Cornerbacks playing 12 yards off the ball on 3rd and 1.
Oh, God.
We did it with D Hall. We're seeing it now. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's FedEx Field. Because that seems to be the common denominator, but you can't have that anymore. You can't.
Yeah. So that's what Marcus kind of talked about with the problem with the defensive schemes. I saw it. So like I actually kind of tweeted that as well. I think it was William Jackson was 9 yards off the ball on a 3rd and 1. John Keim kind of talked about on his podcast. His like rationale is that Kendall Fuller and William Jackson feel comfortable with their speed, that they want to provide a gap so they could jump the ball. That's what the rationale is, but it's not working. It hasn't worked so far. So we'll kind of see how that goes.
You see our receivers get stuffed on the line. Like it's amazing how much that disrupts a receiver.
Oh, 100%. And in NFL, like 3 seconds is an eternity, right? So if you can stuff somebody for a second and a half, it kind of that's with the whole play. Yep. So I agree. Yep. Going back to our conversation, I was going into the season. I was thinking 10-7. I was like, Carson Wentz is 3 games better than Taylor Heineke. I think our offense is going to make a drastic improvement. I am concerned about our defense. There's a conversation that preseason doesn't matter, and people kind of argue that way. I'm more of the old school mindset. Practice makes perfect. You don't basically just flip a switch and automatically become elite overnight. So I was kind of worried with our defensive schemes and what I was watching. I'm not saying I'm the biggest expert in the world, but most of the coverages are man coverage. They're playing vanilla defense. Was a man coverage. Like, I'm just going to cover the guy right in front of me, and they're getting beat. So if they're getting beat playing man coverage against the Panthers, against Baker Mayfield, I don't know. We'll see how it goes later on. So I am a little bit concerned, but hopefully they can right the ship a little bit. So we'll see.
Remember we brought in Josh Norman, one of the best zone covers in the NFL. We had him play man.
Oh my gosh!
I feel like it's the opposite. Isn't that William Jackson's strength is zone coverage? I don't know for sure.
He's a man guy. Actually.
He's a man.
Okay, even worse. Yeah. Even worse.
Yeah, so he's a man cover guy that we try to squeeze into a zone cover scheme. We typically play zone, so I don't know, man. I don't know why we always kind of put a square peg in a round hole. That's what we do around here. So I don't know.
It didn't have Norman on any of them. What was like the first 3 weeks we didn't have him on the top receiver.
Yeah, he didn't want it
back in
Breland. I think Breland wanted him, right? There's an argument between that.
Breland got twerked on by Antonio Brown. I was like, Lord have mercy, fellas. But to your point about the defense, I think the most over-exaggerated person on this defense is Cole Holcomb because he's looked like a fish out of water at that Mike linebacker spot. He doesn't anticipate. He doesn't attack anymore. He's thinking too much. I'm thinking of Carolina when they play Carolina in week 1 of the preseason. He's running into the back of defensive linemen. Dude, you're the Mike guy. That's something that shouldn't be happening. You should know where the hole is, hit the hole, and then there was no aggressiveness against Patrick Mahomes. The only person I really saw even pursuing Mahomes was Sweat. That was it. Yeah. And then everybody else is just standing there. Look, I always tell people this, and y'all might have heard this on the radio. Shout out to Linnell Willingham. I told him, I said, look, Mahomes is going to beat you in battles. He's going to beat you in battles. That is what you got to do. But the point of your defense is to make sure he does not beat you more times than he doesn't, right? That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they look scared. Like they were letting him beat him. And they were just like, Well, okay.
It's
Should we go?
preseason.
Should we go? Yeah. And it's just preseason.
Yeah.
It's just preseason. Preseason, my grits. That's exactly what. Like, they looked awful.
They did look bad.
Awful.
They look
nothing.
really like watching the Panthers game live. I was actually in the stadium at that time. It was rough. It was I think if I remember correctly, I wrote an article about it for Full Press coverage. Basically, the first team offense against it was the Panthers and the Kansas City Chiefs. The first team offense didn't punt the ball. They just basically were 100% on third down conversions and they scored touchdowns. So that's an awful stat to have, regardless of who it is. So it was tough.
Yeah. Baker looked good.
Baker did look good. Baker looked good. So we'll see.
4 weeks in the playbook and he looked that good. That tells you something right there.
That does tell you something. I like what Marcus is saying to you. I think we need to be more aggressive and have some more blitz. I do miss that element of Greg Williams' defense. One thing that we saw last year is we didn't really get too aggressive until Chase Young went down, and then they had to manufacture pressure by putting James Smith-Williams and Shakatoni and that whole little contingent to go blitz. But I want to be more aggressive off the get-go. I think that's the way we can kind of change some things. So we'll see.
See some stunts too, man. Not just blitzing. See some stunts. Move. Like in 2019, you saw a little bit. In 2020, you saw before Chase got hurt. 2020 and 2021. We saw some stunts. We saw Chase move inside, and then you saw Montez move to the outside on the same side. I was like, whoa, where did this come from? And you never saw it again. Kind of like the dual tight end threat. It's kind of like when we had Vernon Davis and Jordan Reed healthy. You saw it one play, and you never saw it again.
That was it. All right, so let's pivot a little bit. Hopefully, it's going to bring some optimism. We'll see how this feels about this, right? So we have a game in 5 days coming up.
Yeah.
Week 1 going against the Jaguars, and it's going to be the first game ever for the Commanders at FedEx Field. So start off with you, Corey. How confident are you heading into the Jaguars game? How do you feel about this?
6.4.
It doesn't sound too confident, Corey.
6.4 because
okay, 6.4.
I was very confident going into last year's game against the AFC opponent with an up and coming with a second-year quarterback, and we saw how that happened last year. So 6.4 on the Richter scale for me right now. I just think I don't know where this defense is at. And if you look at the wide receiver, I was just looking at their wide receiver. Did you know they have Zay Jones on this team
stacked,
too?
So actually,
my gosh.
Just to give context to the viewers, they have Zay Jones, they have Marvin Jones, they have Christian Kirk and Evan Engram. So they totally revamped their offensive side of the ball, and they have Doug Peterson calling the plays, which kind of he's the Eagles guy, right? So he's seen us before. He kind of has some ins and outs about the players. So we'll see. But I don't want to. I don't want to tarnish your perspectives. Keep going if you have.
And I mean, James Robinson's not a bad back, and I mean,
ETN's coming back.
ETN's actually going to play in an NFL game, so that's going to see how he knocks the rust off of after his injury from last season. And then you also have the revenge. People talk about Carson Wentz's revenge. Y'all forget Brandon Sheriff is coming back to town, boys and girls. Now, if he walks in there and maybe strains his Achilles or something like he usually does, it might be something different. But this offense looks like they're kind of geared to make something happen. And the way our defense is played, I don't know how they can really handle that, especially with the corners being so thin. And then we talk about the linebacker play, and now Cam might not be out there at the strong spot. So that's why I have a little bit of concern with this team. I think the offense is going to be all right. I'm not too worried about Walker. I know a lot of people are worried about him. I'm more worried about Josh Allen than Trayvon Walker. But I mean, there's a lot of questions there that we need to see answered, and how we're going to execute come Sunday.
It's going to be interesting, right? So we're seeing a lot of feedback on the comments as well. Corey says 6.5. My boy Marcus says 7. Corey says he's feeling about an 8 right now. It's going to be interesting. So Trevor Lawrence had a bumpy rookie year. He had 12 touchdowns, 17 picks, and he was supposed to be the chosen one, that new Andrew Luck, that new generational quarterback, but he's definitely struggled last year. Granted, he had Urban Meyer, who was kicking everybody in the locker room and doing all this wild stuff. So Urban Meyer was definitely something, but we'll see if he can translate well. When I was doing some initial research on this game, it's going to be kind of an interesting matchup because their secondary is kind of suspect, and I guess so was ours, right? So it's going to be like what defense can rise to the occasion, and their defensive front's pretty good, and so was ours as well. So it's a pretty balanced game. So I kind of feel that way. But Steve, how you feeling, bro?
I'm a little bit lower than Corey. I'm gonna say I'm about a 6. This is a game we're supposed to win, but I don't know if we will win or not. People keep sleeping on this Jaguars team. Like you said, they're completely revamped. They have those weapons on offense. I'm not worried about necessarily. I have confidence in our offense. So Corey focused on their defense. I think we should focus on their offense. You know, Lawrence, Etienne, Kirk, Jones, Ingram. I mean, Sheriff, like these are all players who could potentially do damage to our defense, which is already suspect as it is. And I watched Trevor Lawrence play in the preseason. Now it's preseason, right? So when especially the game versus Steelers, and then a couple of plays versus the I forget who they played the second game, but he made some surgical throws. And I know it's preseason.
The talent's there though.
I was like, oh my gosh, like we have to face this kid. So I just don't hope that we are the team that he has his breakout game against, because I'm not saying it's a trap game, but it could definitely be a trap game. Like we were talking about before the pod started, this team had the first round pick 2 years in a row. We should not lose to this team. In no way, shape, or form should we lose to this team. No way. Now we brought over from this team. We swapped guards with Andrew Norwell.
We got Norwell
and Brandon Scherf. So I'm only worried about our defense when it comes to this game. And I know that's funny because it's the Jaguars, but the Jaguars offense kind of worries me with compared to our defense. So I'm going to go with a solid 6.
Okay, I can see that. You brought up a good point, Steve. I'm going to throw it to Corey because it's going back and forth. So our offensive line really hasn't had the time to kind of gel this whole offseason, right? Trey Turner's been sitting out. Andrew Norwell's been in and out of the lineup, so on and so forth. Are you concerned about our offensive line going into the Jaguars game week 1, especially considering they have Trayvon Walker and they have what's his name, Devin Lloyd from Utah? Now they're starting to build up their defense a little bit too in Jacksonville. So are you concerned? Or do you think Matsko will get them right?
I think Matsko will get them right. The only question I really have is at the right guard spot. How you gonna not even show up and do anything, and then you're gonna be the starter? Like I mean, with Trey Turner, none of it. All these other guys, 4 out of the 5 members of that starting line have played in the preseason, right? I think West probably played better, and maybe stick him in there. I really do.
I think he probably will start. I think I'll start. Yeah,
he should start. I think he should start. Trey Turner has shown us nothing of the sort.
Literally nothing.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with the offensive line though, because I know Wharton and Matsko had them boys ready. We saw it last year. I don't think it's a problem. And Carson was moving the ball behind a makeshift line in the preseason. Granted, like I said, it is preseason, but we were moving the ball. That's key right there. So hopefully if he gets his all starting 5 out there, like Charles Barkley said, are you in my 5? Hopefully the 5 will be good, and they will they'll protect Carson. And the only problem we have to worry about is Carson sometimes slipping into being that dark Carson. So that's the only thing. Ball.
Yeah. Corey, I don't know if you remember this, but we were all, myself and Phil and Deb were on your show beginning of July, and I said my surprise big signing at the end of this season would be Wes Schweitzer, because he was going to earn it this year. So I sure hope he pulls it off and gets that started.
That's good. I like that. That's good. I like
that was July. I just thought that he's going to be a good. I think he's going to be a good player. He just needs the time, and he's got the talent. So
people are high on him. I definitely was listening to. I went for a run earlier today, and John Kine's podcast was on. He was like, "I'm a big Schweitzer fan as well." He said, "Watch Schweitzer in the run game. He's an excellent run blocker. He'll mow people down." He said, "Pass game is about solid, but I definitely that's something I'm going to keep an eye on coming up on this game against the Jaguars." Steve, so we talked about the offensive line. Someone's got to throw the ball. Like, what's your level of confidence on Carson Wentz? Are you pretty happy with him so far? Or how do you feel like he?
Yeah, I think that we haven't seen a lot of Carson Wentz. I don't think they've unleashed him a lot. They've been so conservative in this preseason, and that's how I'm just gauging it. And I'm also gauging a couple times in the preseason he was holding the ball too long, and I feel like he was just going through his progressions. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, because I know that's, like Corey was saying, that's the old Carson Wentz, is he just holds the ball too long and just takes the sack. So I'm hoping he's getting from here. Between Terry and Jahan, you just flash one of them across the middle. One of them should be open every play. There's literally no reason. I'm confident that he is the best quarterback we've had in a long time. He's got a live arm. He's shifty. He can move around. Head and shoulders better than Taylor Heineke. So I'm confident that Carson Wentz has the potential to really take this offense to the next level, because we haven't had it in. I don't even know how long. Don't even get me started.
No, I'll feel you, man. I agree with you. I think he's the most talented quarterback we had in a long time. I think the biggest challenge for him to overcome is the mental game, right? Is can he stay poised? Can he stay clutch? Can he not throw those, left-handed passes to throw interceptions and things like that? He's got to make sure he's all good.
And remember last year, he had a good season, especially for Washington. If you look at statistics from Washington perspective, if you compare it to Washington quarterbacks. But remember, they had the number one, Lulu in the backfield, Michael Taylor.
Yeah.
Like he never really had to do a whole lot. He still put up those numbers. So with us and Antonio Gibson not being Michael Taylor, and hopefully Brian Robinson heals up quickly, because I think that should be RB1.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see the pressure on Carson a little bit more than what he saw last year in Indianapolis. So it'd be good to see how he conforms to it.
I think he'll definitely react to that too. Like he had, Jonathan Taylor was an excellent running back for the Colts, and basically, like, I think there's a more of a veteran team in Indianapolis. Like, I'm sure you guys have peeped it, but basically this whole offseason, Carson Wentz is like, this is such a young team. Like, I feel like an old man on this team. I'm the one with kids. He's kind of like taking that leadership role and kind of being more of that, like, the adult in the room, which I kind of like that. Maybe because he kind of takes ownership of that and kind of rolls with it. So we'll see. Corey, do you think Logan Thomas, he's been kind of banged up this offseason. We hope that he's back. We know what's going on with Brian Robinson. Like, is that going to be something that's too hard for the offense to overcome? Do you think there's enough people in the team to kind of bounce back? How are you feeling about all that?
I think it's I think there's enough guys on this team that maybe Logan's absence might not be felt that bad because of what Carson usually does with tight ends. And I think the 4-game winning streak, he missed like 3 of those games or something. If somebody needs to check me on that, but
I forget. I'm not sure. Yeah,
he didn't play a lot in those games, but they still found ways to win ball games. I think that we may see a renewed Antonio Gibson that's going to play with some motivation. And I've always said this about him. He's never been the guy. He's never been a feature guy like junior college. He's always the other guy. And that's what he needs to be. But I think maybe, there might be some focus in that room with Randy Jordan, Jennifer King, getting those guys to be laser focused on the task at hand and playing for a fallen brother who's on the mend right now, and Brian Robinson.
That's a good point.
So I think these guys are going to come out and play with motivation. So I'm not too worried. And that mistake, now I could be sitting here, I could be standing at FedEx Field on Sunday and being like, oh, well, I should have shut my mouth on Georgia's show to say that, but I'm hoping they don't disappoint me.
That's interesting. So I really like that. I really like that perspective, Corey. I'm actually going to throw it to Steve. So, what are your thoughts on Antonio Gibson? So basically, do you think I'm trying to phrase this question correctly. Brian Robinson's obviously out for a couple games, right? Antonio Gibson kind of was supposed to be the guy coming in this year. Things didn't really go well for him. Do you think he can seize the opportunity, or do you think that opportunity has passed him? How are you feeling about that?
No, he can definitely seize this opportunity. Look at we saw it his rookie year in 2020. I mean, the dude carried the ball. He played, I think he started like 9 or 10 games, and he only fumbled one time. He had about, 700-800 yards, fumbled one time. And then, yes, last year he fumbled like 6 times. I think the talent's there. So the problem is when you look at the fumbles, I know we always talk about his fumbles. His fumbles weren't that bad compared to a lot of other players. They just happened in the worst
inopportune times for sure.
Talking about in the red zone going to score, or we just got the ball off kickoff and he fumbles and they turn around and score. So the talent's there. Like, there's no question. Yes, he could be a starting running back on any team. So I have full confidence in Antonio Gibson, and he'll be perfectly fine. And I think iron sharpens iron. With Brian Robinson breathing down his neck, I think he'll just perform even better. And kind of like Corey said, he was talking about distribution. Corey Lott, distribution will be a problem. Having good running backs, which one do I go to, is an even better problem. So I have full faith in Antonio Gibson. He'll be perfectly fine.
There you go. So that's a great pivot question as well, because John kind of alluded to it in this question right here. Corey kind of talked about it as well. The biggest problem with Wentz is ball distribution, or how he's juggling the weapons and the offensive side of the ball. Corey, and it's kind of a hard question, but let's see if you got it right. Who do you think is going to shine in this offense, and who's going to be someone that maybe kind of will be left out because there is so many things to juggle? Who's kind of like someone that people are kind of riding on right now, but may not be highlighted this year?
I think who's going to shine. I really think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Bates, and I think
interesting. Okay,
yeah, I think it's going to be John Bates. I'm a big John Bates fan anyway, but I think once because I think clearly he's going to be the top tight end in the room, right? Because you got him.
When Thomas is gone,
right? Well, on the roster, right? He right now currently with Thomas on the shelf and probably kind of working his way back, which I think. They're kind of rushing him back just out of necessity. But you've got what's up, bro?
What's up, bro? What's going on? You're on live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But we, and you look at it, Cole Turner. I think we got to taper our expectations for him.
I'm high on him. That's a good point,
everybody's like high. Everybody's like so high on him.
Yeah, they are really high on him.
Yeah. I'm like, guys, let's just come back down to earth just a little bit with him.
Yeah,
but I think Armani Rogers actually might even play a lot better than a lot more than people would think.
Because I like what he showed this offseason. It takes some guts to be that guy man in man out every single day with practice. I like that. So something to be said.
And I think Paul Richardson II and Curtis Samuel is going to be the guy who's falling off on this, because I think you have guys that can do what he already does. J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson.
Much cheaper too.
Exactly. They already do that.
I think at the end of this season he is out on his contract too. And I want him to be successful, but I think in theory they could cut him with like no dead cap money at the end of this year. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's used.
Yeah.
But Steve, same question for you. So basically, people keep talking about just juggling weapons on offense. Is that an issue? Who do you think is going to shine? Who do you think could possibly fall out of that whole like highlighting of players? I guess.
No, it's a great problem to have. Like Corey said. And first off, I love the Paul Richardson reference. By the way, I use that same one myself. I love it. It's we're still have flashbacks of that.
We're a petty fan base, man.
The second coming. Russell Wilson made him look great for 3/4 of the season. But with Carson Wentz, though, if you look at his historic distribution, it's really one receiver and tight ends, and that's really what it comes down to. And I don't know who that one tight end is going to be. If Logan's going to play week 1, I doubt he'll play.
Yeah.
So and Bates is more of a blocking guy. He'll catch anything you throw at him, but so I don't know if that's going to be Cole Turner. Is Cole Turner going to emerge to be that dump off that he's going to be his safety valve? And Terry's Terry, so I imagine Terry will get the share of the catches. But there's no reason Jahan, if this was a different quarterback, I would say that Terry and Jahan should be lighting up all day. But it's Carson Wentz, so he likes his number one. He likes his tight end. That's just how it is. So I don't know if that's going to change.
I gotcha. All right, guys, we're starting to kind of wind down here at the end of the show. Let me kind of I'm going to ask you guys a question about some players, and I'm going to basically ask you for a prediction. Okay, so Corey, we'll start off with you. What is one player you kind of hammering the table for, money on the line, you think he's going to shine this year? The guy you're rooting for, you think is going to blow up this year? It could be anybody. Don't do McLaurin, because that's too easy. Maybe just some a little bit less.
I was going to say McLaurin. I was like, let's go with Jerry, boys. Let's go with let's go with Jahan, right?
Okay.
I think Jahan, I think he's gonna show that he's a number 2 guy. I think, and kind of going back to my theory too about phasing out Curtis Samuel, because you got players who have been who've done what he could do. Like we had DeAndre Carter last year, who's pretty much doing what he was supposed to do. And then you still have JD healthy. You have Antonio Gibson healthy, as long as he can hold on to the ball. I think Jahan will kind of make a way and make some noises for this team here in 2022. I think he's going to prove that he is a guy that can be counted on.
Okay, I like that. John Dotson definitely seems like he's a high riser and had a really good camp. Steve, same question to you, man. Who's the guy you're big on the table for?
Man, if you'd asked me this 8 days ago, I would have said Brian Robinson. But given the circumstances, I'm going to defer back to and say Cole Turner.
Okay.
I think he's that dude, man. I honestly think him and Logan are going to be on the field a lot by the end of the year. I think he can do it.
Okay, I like that.
I want to say Jamin Davis, but I just can't do it yet. So I'm going to say
optimism. Yeah.
I'm going to say
I want to say Jamin C. I think for me, I kind of see Montez Sweat kind of having a revival year. I think Montez is going to blow up a little bit. I'm feeling good about him. Heard he had a really good camp. I think he has the potential. We'll see how he can react with not having, maybe he might get double teamed and chipped a lot this year with for the first couple games of the year because of Chase Young being out. But I feel very high on him, so I'm happy about that.
So you got to pay him or Payne.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Save that one for another episode.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's do one more. Let's do one more fan question, and then we'll do a predictions. We'll be done for the day. So, Mandalorian Aaron, I don't know if you guys can see this on your screen. He basically brought up a tweet. I liked it. He said, "Which is the real defense for Washington? The one that from weeks 1 to 6 where they were absolutely awful, were getting torched, or where they improved, or sorry." Which is the real defense from week 1 to 6 where they were really struggling, or from week 7 to 14 when they really started to thrive and started to shine a little bit? Do you think the loss of Landon Collins is going to have an impact on anything for this year? Steve, we'll start off with you. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's going to have a huge impact, especially with Cam Curl's thumb.
That's true.
We wanted Cam Curl was going to replace Landon Collins. That was the plan. We've been told this whole offseason, and
that's true.
With his bum thumb, I would have to say it's going to be not the latter, but the first one. I mean, if we're trying to compare what these are going to be, there's no reason for me to say the second, because
nothing has shown you to change your mind, right?
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Okay.
So,
Corey, how you feel?
Yeah, I'm right there with Steve. I think it's going to be that top one that we get burned, we get beat up, and how can we compare it to Landon Collins if Landon Collins isn't here, or that type of talent isn't here anymore? I have to go with the 1 through 6 last year. I think it's going to be a defense that's still trying to figure out what they want to do and putting the round hole in the square peg, and just kind of making excuses like they typically do, like they did last year. So I think that's the real defense right now. Until we're proven wrong either way. Yeah.
Plus your conspiracy theory too. That's just gonna stick in my head.
I know. You should have put that little worm in my brain, dude. It's just stuck in there now. It's really interesting to keep on.
I have no knowledge of this, but I'm just saying, like, everything, it stinks. It just reeks. That if you're really trying to improve a defense, how do you do stuff in business, right? When you're trying to get rid of somebody, you do things, you take away things that make the job easier. To force that person out.
Me and Corey Lott got the same kind of perspective on things. He said he was banging on the table for Sweat. I agree with him there. I do think they should have brought back Landon Collins. I guess the only reason why I would have been reluctant on bringing back Landon Collins is giving Percy Butler a fair shot, giving Cameron Crowe more time. But I think the more talent you can get on the team, the better. And I agree with both of you guys. I think over the past 2 or 3 years with this whole like Chase Young construct and our optimism on that way we built our defense, we've been poor. We've been more of a bad defense than a good defense over those last 2 years. So that's kind of that's the track record. You got to prove me wrong now. It's kind of where I'm looking at. So we'll see. On that note, let's kind of bring it on home. So we'll start off we'll do Steve this time. Game predictions. Okay. Who do you got in week 1 and why? And if you're feeling bored enough, you can drop down a score prediction too if you'd like. You don't have to.
Yeah, you know what? I'll drop it. I'm gonna say, oh man, you'd ask me. I hate to do this, but I think it's gonna be like 27-24 Jacksonville. I just have a feeling it's gonna be a back and forth, and or even 27-25, or call it how you want. I just think it's gonna be decided 3 points or less. It's gonna be a shootout, and I just think it's going to be just not going to go our way. It's just a terrible feeling. Please let me be wrong, but I'm going to say 27-24 Jacksonville.
Gotcha. All right, Corey.
Roast me in the comments if you want.
Fun fact.
It's hard to do that. It's hard to put your neck out there, right? All right, Corey, what you got, bro?
Fun fact, Jacksonville's never won in Washington. Well, this be today. Yeah, this is true. You can double check it. I think at the end of the day, I think the Commanders prevail. I think the defense will get shredded up worse than a turkey on Thanksgiving. But I think the offense will overcome some of their self-inflicted wounds and positive defense just gets lucked up into a turnover, right? That's what I'm thinking. I'm not a score predictor, so I'm not going to predict any scores on here. I think just Commanders will get the W because next week I think is a more tougher game than Jacksonville. I think Detroit is where you're going to have to be on all P's and Q's. So I think you need to get a win here rather than in Detroit. So give me the W for the Commanders. That's a way of
looking at things.
Hard Knocks got me hyped.
Bite kneecaps, boys. Yeah,
by the kneecaps. So first of all, Andy Burrows says, "Steve, we're not friends anymore."
You know, Andy, I'm going to give Andy the biggest bear hug when I see him on Friday. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be awesome seeing Andy. Corey Lott says, Commanders 28-21. Surprise defense will come up with a big play. I said it to someone earlier on Twitter. I think that it is going to be whoever wins a turnover battle. So I don't know if you guys realize this. We did not get any turnovers this whole preseason. I don't know if you guys caught that at all for our defense. Yeah. So no turnovers our way. I agree with Steve with the score. I think it's going to be 27-24, but I think it's going to be flipped. I think the Commanders are actually going to pull it out. Awesome. I think the good gracious, I think people is like, whatever spirit you believe is going to kind of give us this win because, it's been such a crummy past couple of years. So it's kind of start off on the right foot. So we'll see. And I'm just hoping that our defense can shine. So we'll see how that goes. But that's kind of my prediction. So we'll touch base. We'll talk about that and see how it goes later on. So fair. Thank you, fellas. I had a really good time talking to you guys. Very easy flowing conversation. I loved it. Let's start off with Steve, man. Just drop us. Where can we find you on socials? What kind of products you're working on? Like what, say anything, drop whatever you want. Plug whatever you need.
You can see the Twitter handle up there at @command_this. We'll be dropping our podcast Thursday. We'll be going live with the Dunn and Drew podcast from Jacksonville. They're big in the Jacksonville community, so we'll be dropping them on Thursday. Want to hear their take on us, actually see how, they're big Jacksonville fans, so it should be fun. But yeah, you can find us anywhere on any of your major podcast platforms or here on YouTube. Please go sub up and make sure you give these two guys a sub if you're here from our channel as well.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that, man. Corey, what's up with you, man?
You can find me on the Warpath or at Sanchez 405. It's stream season, y'all. So I will be on Wednesday. I'll be streaming, previewing the game. We'll do our little 6-pack of picks and everything. Gonna have Paulie, everybody, the loudest mouth on 980 is going to be on there with me, preview the game and everything.
Love Paulie.
He will probably be in the work truck, so he's repoing cars as always.
Towing.
And then I'll be live on Thursday night doing the Bills and the Rams. So come on, pull up. I may open it up for some folks. Just come on, chat and talk about what we're seeing on the game and what we're looking forward to on Sunday. And then Sunday I'll be live at the game. Hopefully we get in that red zone lot and we'll have all kinds of people coming around and, we'll get some predictions, get some thoughts and everything, a little bit of trash talking in there if we see what 5 Jacksonville fans are at the game. So, looking forward to it, man. And George, as always, it's a pleasure. And Steve, I won't snub you and Phil this time around. I'm going to make sure I'll put y'all on radar.
If we can figure out how to get just one picture of like the content creators, that would be amazing.
Right.
Just a picture.
100%.
Just a picture. That's all I think would be cool.
The whole
we can figure it out.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's make it happen. For sure.
2 minutes.
2 minutes for sure, man. So, guys, I'm George Carmi at GCarmi21, host of the Full Press Commanders podcast. It was a pleasure having Corey and Steve on, man. Definitely free flowing. We got to run this trio back. I like this. I like the chemistry between us two. It was really, really good, man. It was a good time. So, find me on Twitter at GCarmi21. Please subscribe at Full Press Commanders on YouTube. I'll be doing a fantasy podcast on Sundays moving forward. I'm trying to get a Jaguars podcast up too. So that's it. If you enjoyed the content, subscribe. See you guys later. Have a great weekend. Peace. Have a great week.